We're here because free speech is under attack. We're here because people are being convinced that socialism works. We're here because people are being judged guilty until proven innocent. We are fighting back with facts. This is not a safe zone, so buckle up, Buttercup. This is the raw, naked truth.
Israel moves to more targeted attacks. France's prime minister steps down. Workers still not returning to the office, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. Israel's military said Monday it had started shifting its ground and air offensive in Gaza to a more targeted phase against Hamas leaders and fighters. The disclosure came as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who is touring the Middle East in a bid to keep the war from spreading, was expected to urge Israeli leaders to narrow their offensive to protect civilians. The threat that the fighting could spread increased on Monday as Hezbollah, a Hamas ally in Lebanon, said an Israeli strike killed one of its commanders a day after another Israeli attack killed senior Hamas leaders in Lebanon. Astrobotic Technology abandoned its plan for the first U.S. moon landing in half a century, and the first ever by a private business, after a critical fuel leak developed shortly after its Monday launch from Florida. The company said it turned its Peregrine spacecraft toward the sun so its solar panels could charge its battery, and was now focusing on getting the lander, which carries experiments but no people, as close to the moon as possible before it loses power. The 202-foot-tall Vulcan Centaur rocket, developed by the United Launch Alliance, a Boeing-Lockheed Martin joint venture, had a successful first launch after years of delays, powering the lander into space. French Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne submitted her resignation to President Emmanuel Macron on Monday, less than 20 months after he appointed her. Macron accepted it, praising Borne for showing courage, commitment, and determination during her time as prime minister. He appointed Gabriel Attal to replace her. At 34, Attal will be France's youngest prime minister in modern history. Borne was the second woman to hold the job. Her departure came as Macron gets started with an overhaul of his government's leadership, hoping to boost his political strength 6 months before European elections. Borne's chances of holding on to the position had been sinking for weeks, particularly after the passing of a divisive immigration law. United and Alaska Airlines said Monday they found loose bolts on door plugs installed on several Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets during inspections conducted after an Alaska Airlines flight had to make an emergency landing last week when a door plug blew out 10 minutes after takeoff. The National Transportation Safety Board also said the Alaska Airlines emergency, in which nobody was seriously injured, occurred after a warning light went off 3 times on the aircraft's recent flights. Due to the glitch, Alaska had barred the jet from carrying passengers on long flights over water. Door plugs fill doorways that aren't being used. They are held in place by 12 stop fittings that keep the door from becoming dislodged. Office space vacancies in major U.S. cities reached 19.6% in the fourth quarter of 2023, the highest level in 4 decades, the Wall Street Journal reported on Monday, citing data from Moody's Analytics. That was up from 18.8% a year earlier and slightly above the previous record of 19.3% set in 1986 and 1991. Moody's has been collecting data on office vacancies since 1979. The rise reflected years of overbuilding and shifting work habits that were accelerated by the pandemic, according to the journal. The previous records came in office market downturns in the 1980s and 90s after years of overbuilding. Now, office parks built in that era are struggling to attract tenants as businesses trim their footprints or leave for newer buildings. That's the Raw Naked Truth. You can catch every episode of The Raw Naked Truth at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.